Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all took a lot away from the different breakout sessions that we just had. We will continue the general session with our keynote address and discussion. To kick off this conversation, I'm going to turn it over to the coolest person in Indiana politics today, my friend and fellow IYD member, Brandon Evans, to make an introduction.
All right, thank you, Matthew. I hope everybody's had a great day today. I don't know about being the coolest person, but I'll take it from Matthew for sure. So my name is Brandon Evans, like Matthew said, and today I have the honor, the joy of introducing someone really important to me personally and really important to Indiana politics as a whole. Some call her the queen of the West Side. Some call her a red district killer. Many, including myself, call her family. She's definitely a fighter for all. She's a mentor to many. And I just want to give a huge round of applause and welcome Representative Karlee Macer. Yeah. Pop up any second. Oh. Oh, there she comes. Well, while we're waiting for technical difficulties to get figured out, I will give a little more talk about Karlee. I can talk about her more while we're waiting. Oh, I think she's about to pop up though. Karlee was elected in 2012, and she flipped her district. Oh, there she is. I'll let her tell you about her. She's way better at it than me.
Well, it's so good to be with you all today, and I'm just so excited to be a part of this. And Brandon, I appreciate your introduction, and most importantly, your friendship, your hard work. You give everyone so much energy, and we just love you for that. So thank you, and thank you to everyone with the Indiana Young Democrats and everything that you've been doing for many years, and certainly just your terrific work over the past several years with your convention and just your leadership. You're the leaders of today, and I'm just so proud to be a part of this. But I wanted to tell you all what an exciting opportunity it is to be here. I wish we could do this in person, but of course we know how this goes. It is very meaningful though to me to see all of you. And for anybody that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Karlee Macer, and I proudly represent the West Side of Indianapolis in the House of Representatives. And I've been doing that great work for the past 8 years. And during that time, I've gotten to work alongside some of the most incredible leaders, activists, and individuals focused on pushing our state and our party for the better. I don't think it's any secret that 9 out of the 10 times there are young Democrats who are working alongside us at the table, behind the scenes, and on the front lines. So from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for the impact that you have made on me and certainly our party. 2020 will be a year that none of us will forget. From the economic turmoil to a deadly pandemic, to the protest in the streets justly demanding the recognition of the fact that Black Lives Matter. It's the times like this where we look to the leadership to be held accountable, to hold the microphone up to those demanding the systematic changes, and to put action behind the words to truly change our state and our nation for the better. It's never been more important for us to elect leaders who are willing to stand up and do the work. Day in and day out, regardless of how hard it is, we deserve leaders who aren't afraid to show up and show out for the causes that matter. Now, more than ever, it is imperative that our leaders reflect the true values of our state and are willing to stand in that gap, whether it's comfortable or not, and push ourselves to do better and be better. Out of the darkness of this year, there has been a consistent bright light. The voice of our young people leading the charge and pushing our leadership to be held to a higher standard. For too long, we've settled so many times for mediocre, when the young Democrats have pushed for excellence. Thank you. We've settled for the status quo, when young Democrats have demanded change. And we've settled for playing nice, while our young Dems have pressed for the accountability. You are the ones who push our leaders to have the uncomfortable conversations that are necessary for us to grow. And it's because of your work that we will build a better and brighter state for Hoosiers everywhere, and one for where our diversity is celebrated, our voices are heard, and our democratic principles are upheld. The work you all have done is nothing short of inspirational, and it has been one of the greatest honors for me personally to be able to fight right alongside so many of you for the future of our state. Too often we hear that young Dems are the future of our party, when in actuality, so many of you have already stepped up to lead in communities across the state. You are our present leaders, and the changes you're making will impact our party for generations to come. I am forever grateful for all that I've learned and experienced alongside you. And I want you to know that just because I don't plan on being at the State House, it doesn't mean I'm done fighting with you and for you. We're on to bigger, more exciting things, and that trail will be blazed by you and the values we put forward. So thank you all for inviting me to take part in this incredible convention today, and for allowing me to introduce my good friend and all-around badass Christina Hale. The women of this party have stepped up to lead in such an incredible way, and Christina is an example of the caliber of candidate that we need to be putting forth, and her tenacity and her passion for this work are unmatched, and it's because of her candidacy that we open the door for more women to step up and run for office. Many of you already know Christina Hale. Hale, yes. And to just add a little bit more, I want to say that it has been such an incredible honor to work with Christina in the House of Representatives. We were both elected together in 2012. She has done incredible work over the years with Kiwanis, lifting up people all around the globe, and certainly focusing on children and women and families and all of the important things that we care so much about. And we have to add in Christina's leadership for her recent, lieutenant governor and so many other great things that she's doing. She leads by example, and it is really just such an honor to call her my friend. And welcome, Miss Christina Hale, our candidate for the Congressional 5th District for the state of Indiana.
Karlee, thank you. It's great to see you. It's been too long, really. And that was quite a keynote in and of itself. So everyone, she's a very tough act to follow. So please bear with me and be a little forgiving if I'm not quite as exciting a speaker as Karlee is. But, I've got a different message for you. And I got to tell you, and I want you to hear this. This is all about you. The adults in charge aren't going to come in and save you anymore. You're that adult in charge. And we can see the issues of our time, whether it's systemic racism, whether it's police brutality, saving our DACA students, our dreamers, gun violence in the schools. There are so many issues of our time. And, I talk a lot about what makes me want to set my hair on fire. I ask you to start thinking about what really makes you want to set your hair on fire. Why are you even here? You've stepped up in a way that goes beyond voting, beyond just making some comments on your Facebook. You've joined an organization that is here and gathered to do good in an organized way, to collect that power from the very diverse makeup of your membership, to put forward our Hoosiers here, young, old, from every kind of background, to put us forward for greater success, prosperity, fairness, unity, all good things. Now, I'm running for Congress because I believe we need problem solvers and people who can, really put our democratic values first, put people first, before profit, before so many things that face our country. But I've got a few lessons for you as well. And I want to push back on somebody I have tremendous respect for, and that is Mr. Rogers. You probably know him too. Sweet man. I loved his show as a little 3-year-old. But I'll tell you, there's a quote that I take a lot of inspiration from. It's something his mother used to tell him, and that's in times of great crisis, look out for the helpers and take comfort in them. You can't just be a helper anymore. You can't just, make your opinion known on your Insta anymore. You can't just show up at protests anymore. What I want you to do is think about your role now in your party and then what it can be down the road. And I'll start just by telling you first, don't wait to be perfect. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity to come along, and don't wait for the perfect time either. None of that exists. None of it exists. There's always going to be something coming along, some challenge in your life, professionally, personally. What I need you to do is keep your eyes open and your heart open for that opportunity. When you see that role to step up, I'm asking you to see yourself in a role of positional leadership and not just as a helper behind the scenes. Whether you're a campaign manager, whether you're a candidate for office, whether you're taking a position in your organization here, IYD, or some other role. It's important that you become one of the decision makers. It's important that your circle of influence goes beyond just being the people that volunteer to make these events go. You need to have a vote. You need to have a say. You need to have a platform. And, I mentioned there's no such thing as perfect. And I'll tell you, I'm a very imperfect person. I had a typical Hoosier upbringing, probably like you did. My parents sent me off to school. They expected me to come home with some kind of diploma. I came home with this little baby boy named Owen. I was 19 and pregnant, and I was terrified. And both of my brothers said to me, Christy, face it, you're always going to be a loser now. And I thought, no, I'm not. I'm not going to be a loser for myself. I'm not going to be a loser for this kid. I got to move forward. And there were 2 women that stood up for me. One's name was Jan Katz and the other Deb Chubb. And in my hometown in Michigan City, Indiana, they formed the Michigan City Child Care Consortium at the Sinai Temple. And they helped me get Owen into their Giant Steps program so I could go back to school and get that diploma from Purdue. So I could put Owen through school, so I could be a decent mother, make sure he ate some healthy food and had play dates, and I could read stories to him, and he could have everything that we want our young kids to enjoy as they grow up. I wouldn't be here today if they hadn't have helped me. But that also inspired me that I had to have a career about playing it forward. So I did have a career in community and economic development. I worked for a global NGO, but it wasn't always easy to get there. I mean, I can't tell you, I've missed car payments. I've lived with the terror of not having healthcare coverage. I managed to have it for Owen. I didn't always have it. And right now I'm terrified for the 500,000 Hoosiers who signed up for unemployment in just under 5 weeks during COVID. I said earlier too, there is no perfect time for you. There is no perfect time. We don't know what's coming around the corner. We don't know if there's going to be a second wave of this pandemic or another pandemic or something else that's beyond our imagination that will crush our economy or take us to war. We just don't know what to expect, and you don't either. But to be in positional leadership, to be in the right place at the right time for that, to have your mind and heart open to say yes to these kinds of opportunities when you see them, to grab hold of that is so important. You know, I talk about these issues that make me want to set my hair on fire. Sometimes you know them and you get in office and you can get things done. And I passed a lot of bills to fight, you know, sexual violence against vulnerable populations, to work on all kinds of things that I thought would be good for people here in our state. But sometimes you just need to be that person with a good heart and a good mind, who's in it for the right reasons, who's there when the shit hits the fan like it has been. So that you're there when finally we reach the tipping point of Black Lives Matter. And I believe we have. And I believe people are understanding in their hearts and in their bones that George Floyd matters, that Breonna Taylor matters, that Rayshon Brooks matters. Ahmaud Arbery matters. We know this. We can't let this stop. And I'll tell you, I was so inspired last weekend too. I went down to a protest in a mask at our state capitol, and there was this new group of young women putting it on. Black women in charge, they call themselves. They're Black women aged 16 to 21 that have stepped up now to say, we're gonna do something, we're gonna organize, we're gonna carve out our position here and have our voices heard. And what really inspired me too is they're just so smart about it. First, they got they got George Hill, they got Tamika Cutchings, they got all kinds of amazing people to leverage their voices too. But actually, it was their voices that were the strongest, most sensible and effective. And what they said, I'll never forget. They said, it's not enough just to vote. It's not enough just to run for office. What? There were only 22 polling places open in Marion County here, our capital city. They couldn't find enough people to recruit to work in them. You need to work in them this fall. We've got to open more polling places because more people have to vote. And you can't just show up at a protest. You got to show up on election day. Holding people accountable, holding themselves accountable. It was just fantastic. But you're fantastic too. And what you're doing here and why you're here. And this is a beautiful Saturday. You could be anywhere and you're behind your screen again, listening to politicians talk about issues. You need to be that politician. You need to be that office holder or that campaign manager or that somebody who has a vote, a say, a voice, and gets things done. This organization is here to help you do just that. You're never going to be perfect. You're never going to know everything about air quality or curbs and sewers or every question that you might face from the public. You might not have a perfect past like myself, being that pregnant teenager. I'll always be her. But nobody is prepared. And if anyone tells you that they are perfect and the perfect candidate and have everything figured out, they're not telling you the truth. What you need to do is lean into your strengths as Democrats. And I imagine one of your strengths is that you have a good heart. But another is that you have a good mind. And I know you're in it for the right reasons. So hear me when I say this is about you. When you go home from this convention, please, in the middle of the night when you're thinking, when you have that quiet moment, put your screen down, listen to yourself. And begin to prepare. Be ready to say yes when that opportunity comes. Be ready to get creative. And maybe you need to go out and create that opportunity. But you don't know what's coming around the corner next. Neither do I. Nobody does. But I'll tell you this. We need more people that are practical. We need more people with empathy and competence in elected leadership, now more than ever. We're facing an historic election in November. The stakes could not be higher. And I am proud of you and grateful for stepping up now in the beginning of this summer to say, yes, you're going to be part of something bigger and better, something that will bring positive change to the people that live here. And so for that, I just want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's organized this convention. IYD does put on the best conventions in the country. And I just want to say thank you too to my friend Karlee Macer. She and I had a different path to elected leadership, but we took that path together in 2012. And I remember my first conversation with Karlee. I was talking to her about running in my district. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to run every day down the Monon with my campaign t-shirt on and just try to, build up a little notice. And she's just said, oh, I'm already doing that. And, she's a person with great ideas and a great future. And I just wish I got to see a little bit more of you, Karlee. So with that too, I just want to end this by saying thank you. But remember, what you're doing right now isn't quite enough. It's time to step up. And if what's happening out there doesn't convince you of that, nothing will. But you're here, and that's a very big deal. So thank you. And I think we're going to take some questions now. Is that right, Karlee?
That's right. Absolutely. And Christina, I just don't think there's ever going to be a time where I'm not going to be just totally just so into what you're saying when you share your story, because it is a story that's shared by so many people. And it's really just such an inspiration to listen to you and, to know that you stand up for everyday people, and just excited to see what's next and can't wait to see you there. But it's question time. And so I thought it would be a little fun to ask you, what prompted you to originally run for office? And do you have any specific role models who have shaped your leadership style?
I have so many role models, and I will begin there with one, Betty Cockrum. She was very close to me, one of my mentors, and she recently passed away in a very untimely way. And I'll say this too, you don't know how much time you have on this earth either. You never know what's around that corner, and Betty didn't. None of us expected us to lose her, but what was amazing when she passed away was just, you heard the volume of how many women she helped. She helped me. She was my mentor, but she was so many. She was a mentor to so many. And she was also the kind of person as a candidate that, if you hit a brick wall and the good old boy clique wasn't writing you a contribution check, or they didn't want to let you in, or, shine the light on you, she would go to them and say like, oh no, she'd be that advocate and open the doors. And, but there are so many people out there, and I encourage everyone on this call too, if you don't have a strong mentor in your life, reach out, find one. That for me, I wouldn't be here without Jan and Deb, but so many other mentors along the way that I continue to have, and as a congressional candidate or just personally, mentors have been key to helping me up my game as a human in a lot of ways. But what made me run for office the first time, I had a career that was very cause-based and mission-based. And I was working in all of these countries around the world, but coming back here to Indiana, and I reached a tipping point when I learned that 1 in 5 girls, by the time they graduate from an Indiana high school, had been raped or sexually assaulted, and an untold number of boys, because we weren't tracking that data. And that made me want to set my hair on fire. But I thought I'd do something here about that problem. But I still didn't think of myself as a candidate for office or elected official. And full disclosure, I got a text from a friend who said, hey, you want to come over for soup and football Friday night? And I was like, can't, traveling for work. And she wrote back and she's like, my husband wants to know. Yes, my husband wants to know. It didn't come from me, it didn't come from her. I am never going to let that happen to me again. And I'm not going to let it happen to you either, women out there. My husband wants to know, do you want to run for state representative? So I just texted back, ha, 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 ha. But it was that moment. It was that moment when the universe taps you on the shoulder and you think, And that's why I ask you to have an open heart and open mind and have that conversation with yourself when you're lying in bed, can't sleep, or have that quiet moment in your car or the shower. Like, why not you? Why not you? If you can't count on yourself to do the right thing at the right time and to drive forward change, you can't count on any of the other candidates you're looking at. So for me, that was my moment.
Oh, so as a woman running for office, can you speak to some of the challenges and opportunities that you have experienced where you see room for our party to grow, to be more inclusive?
Sure. And Karlee, I think this would be a great question for you to comment on as well, because I know you've really participated in a significant way in this issue. Part of it too is something you mentioned earlier, is being a mentor to others, but continuing to push. And Democrats are servant leaders. You know, we have a culture of servant leadership. We're always trying to do the right thing. We're modest, and help people. But I also want to remind you all to think about positional leadership once again. And it's through positional leadership, I think, that we can make and build a more inclusive party. So there are probably positions you haven't thought about, like on our state central committee, or working on our party platform, and participating in a leadership role in your township club or your city club, where you can be that person that holds the door open, invites people in, and it's from a position of legitimacy and leadership. I mean, it makes a difference if you're president of the Carmel Dems and you invite people that don't look like you or have a different background to that meeting and make them welcome. It's a huge opportunity if you're running and you get elected to state central committee and you get to connect everyone in your congressional territory to what's going on and bring their voices, or through a caucus role. But there are a number of ways that I think that we can do this casually, and we do, inviting diverse people to sit on a panel. And, I'm Cuban American. I'd be the first person of Latinx descent elected to federal office from our state if I'm elected in November. That's terrible. But it's terrible that for a short time when I was in the state house, I was the only person of Latinx descent there. Now I think we have 2 people. We had 14 African Americans out of 150. That's not reflective of the population. We had only 20%, 1 in 5 were women. We're slightly more than half the population. We just have to, use positions to invite people in and to push for change. And then secondly, sometimes you got to push your way in too.
Yeah. Well, I know from the opportunity that I've had to serve, I realized a year or so ago, my little niece had asked my sister to send me a picture of herself that she was imitating me. And she was wearing a cute blue suit, by the way. And she had this little pose, and she said, tell Aunt Karlee I'm her today. And of course, she looked like a little businesswoman. And I know that she does not realize, what the job that I actually have and what I do. But what warmed my heart as I thought about it later on in the day is that she lives in District 92. And I thought to myself that her and all the other little girls in all the days ahead will never say what I said, to say that I'm the first woman to be elected to represent my community. And just knowing that it is really so true about you see it, you become it. And I know that there are so many more opportunities that I have to continue to lead by example. But also I know from my time serving in the House of Representatives, there is some of the most obvious ways that we can continue to make improvements on the inside as well as on the outside. But for me personally, I know there still continues to be more room for leadership within our party in a way that provides even more of a perspective that women the challenges and the great things that we have to deal with on our road to serving. And there's just a lot more room for that. But Christina, you lead by example as well. And so I think that's just one of the best ways for us to continue on our journey. And I sure have had a good time. Well, I've got just a couple more questions if we have time. So what will be your greatest priority when you are elected in November to Congress?
Certainly healthcare, and that was prior to COVID. I mentioned earlier, I had this little kid. He had insurance. I didn't. It was like white knuckle fear, just thinking I was one sore throat or one broken bone away from financial ruin, missing car payments, not being able to pay his pre-K hourly wages. I'd have to pick him up by 6 p.m. And I remember every minute after 6 p.m., it was an extra $10 to dissuade you from ever being late. And, times were really tough. And that shouldn't be. People shouldn't have these kinds of fears. People need to be able to take a day off from work when they're ill or hurt. They need to be able to go to the doctor, pay for that visit, pay for the medication and the therapy that they need to be healthy, and have it not break the bank. And if there is something positive from COVID, I believe we're getting momentum because in a most practical way, people are learning that public health is in their personal interest. It makes a big difference if that person who is in Kroger squeezing the tomatoes before you, can go to the doctor when they're sick or not. When you want to share the same airspace with somebody, if they're at the movie theater or restaurant or, just going to CVS for necessary supplies before you walk in the door. This is something that relates to our personal security, our country's security, economic well-being, and it's something that I think is a human essential.
Well, I look forward to all of your work on that, Christina, because we all know how important it is, and it is such a high priority, and I'm grateful for all of your work and look forward to your success and helping Hoosiers.
Oh, thank you. I would just want to say too, relating back to something from earlier, we are facing the issues of our times. So COVID is popping this one up and punctuating this for us to underscore how important it is, but we can't forget about gun violence. We can't forget about school safety. We can't forget about the environment and what's happening here. This congressional district is the home to the White River, the Eagle Creek watershed. We're not taking care of our water. We're not taking care of our public infrastructure, higher education. I mean, all of this is a bill that we are passing along to your generations, younger generations, energy production, so many things. And I believe too, this next Congress is going to have to step up to address police brutality and also address systemic racism. And there could be more. Certainly, this is going to be a summer of distress in ways that are hard to anticipate.
Yeah.
So yes.
Well, I think you may have kind of covered this question a little bit, but I do think it is important for us to just kind of circle back on it. Is what kind of advice do you have for a young Democrat that is interested in running for office? I mean, is there any good advice that you would have that you haven't covered already?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there is something I want to say, and that is turn off that voice in your head that tells you you can't do it, you're not good enough, blah, 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 blah. Stop listening to that person. We need people that are of diverse experience, background. I said to you, there is no such thing as perfect. Don't wait for that perfect time, that opportunity. Drive toward it, or sometimes you're in the right place at the right time and it drops in your lap. You get that text of inspiration or somebody pulls you in. It's nice when that happens. Be ready to say yes, and really trust your own instincts in your gut. So when the opportunity comes, you'll be like, yeah, I can do that. And turn that voice off that keeps telling you no, how you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you're not prepared enough, it's the wrong time. Just turn it off.
Yeah. Christina Hale, that is fantastic advice. And we are just so excited to be able to be behind you and supporting you along the way. And I just cannot wait till the day that I get to see my friend in Congress doing all the great work that you've been doing right here in the state of Indiana. And I just look forward to supporting you, as well as I'm so grateful, and I know you are too, for the Indiana Young Democrats and all the work that they're doing for all of us. They are our present leaders. They're doing the work today, and they give me, and I'm sure you and everyone else, the energy that we all deserve and that we need and that we so desperately want. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us today. And I really, really just enjoyed seeing your sweet face.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate being here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Representative Macer, and to our 5th Congressional District nominee, Christina Hale. We look forward to flipping the 5th in November. And now we will continue on with our convention and hear from another young Democrat on the ballot this year.
Considers the health and well-being of our mothers, our infants, and our seniors. And we fully fund and support our public school systems. We create jobs of the 21st century that pay a living wage that supports the family, growth and opportunity. As we make decisions that impact the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, and the land that we farm. Running for office has taught me how to be selfless. My advice to you is that you use your voice to tell your story and that you fully trust in your ability to be of service to your community. My hope for you is that you do not stop fighting for what is right.
Okay, we will now move on to the closing part of our convention. Here's some closing remarks and IYD leadership announcements. I will now turn it over to our IYD president, Ariel Brandy.
Okay. Awesome. Sorry, was trying to get my video enabled there really fast. So actually, I'm also going to have our Vice President, James Wells, also join us. If we could cue him up as well, because I do want him to be on here with me. Awesome. Okay. So what we have coming up first and foremost is, one, we want to thank you guys for coming to our first virtual convention. We have had a great time with you guys. I've been able to, pop into all of the training sessions and then also obviously be a part of the general sessions. But first, thank you to our trainers who took the time on a Saturday to train the young Democrats of this organization, but also a lot of our Young at Heart members as well who tuned in and took part in our trainings this afternoon and this morning. So thank you to our trainers who took time today to be with us. Stefan, Elise, who else do we have? We had all of our panelists for the Democratic Coalition panel and all of our young Democrats from 2019 who participated this morning. Thank you guys for being here. And to our keynote speakers that we had the honor of having come and join us, Karlee and Christina, badass women in this state. That was a great way to close out our convention. So thank you both for being here and being a part of that. Following convention, what we're going to go into over the next couple of weeks, we are going to be reaching out to our members to make sure that they know that we will be meeting as an organization for our first full membership meeting with our new board, and also talk about some of the initiatives and things that we are going to move forward on. We will have to do some appointments form some committees, and get ready for national convention. And we will need your help as Young Democrats to do that. So please be on the lookout for our next meeting date. When we meet as an organization, we welcome you all to come. If you have paid your dues, you are now obviously a member. And if you have a friend who you want to let know about this, please do. If they weren't able to attend our convention today, tell them about it, have them join our organization. We welcome everybody. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over to our Vice President, James, to see if he has any closing remarks from our leadership. Once again, thank you guys so much for being here. It is such an honor to serve as president of IYD. James.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, again, this has been a remarkable day, given the circumstances of the pandemic. No one thought we were going to be in this situation having a virtual convention, but yet we were able to organize it thanks to an incredible team of Young Democrats on our board and in our officer positions. I also want to say and reiterate again, after convention in the next coming weeks, we will be getting our constituency caucuses off the ground, as well as, aside from that, laying out an endorsement process for all of our Young Democrats, even those who fight for issues related to young folks in Indiana. We're going to be laying out that process over the next couple of weeks and rolling those out. Again, thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to all the attendees for joining us today. And also to all the exiting and retiring members from our board. Thank you for your service to our organization, and to our new board members. Welcome on board, and to our current ones who will be going on to the new term. Looking forward to working with you and continuing on in this next year. We're going to turn it over to Matt, or
I think we're going to have Dina.
Yeah, Dana and Matt give us some updates from the Young Democrats of America.
Good afternoon, everyone. This has been really exciting, and I'm so happy that you had the opportunity to get to know our panelists and our board. Moving forward, we are excited to bring our IYD agenda and our and the YDA agenda to the state of Indiana. As for YDA national updates, I know Matt has more specific ones, but on my end, in the next couple of weeks, we will be doing virtual lobby days, virtual advocacy days. We will start with a DC statehood one. There are some things that need to be finalized, but that is pretty close. It should be launching, I think, in the next couple of days. So we'll be sure to share that with you, as well as in the beginning of July, we will have a housing discrimination panel and lobby day. So if you're interested, you can just reach out to me and I'll get you plugged in to talk about how Indiana can be a resource in that. And then I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you, Dina. In addition to some updates, YDA is currently voting on changes to its charter as we speak. These changes have to do with delays in emergency rescheduling of in-person national committee meetings, moving or removing gender references to our YDA DNC representatives, and enacting rules governing DNC member elections, which will be taking place in the next couple weeks. In addition, YDA has voted to award the 2021 YDA convention to a joint bid from the Ohio and Kentucky Young Democrats. It'll be held in Cincinnati, just a quick hour and 15 minutes away from here. So we will definitely be looking to send a very large Indiana delegation since it is right down the road on Interstate 74. Now, before we continue into the swearing in of our officers, we will hear from one more Young Democrats candidate on the ballot this year.
I'm Tabitha Bartley. I'm running for State Senate in District 7. I wanted to run to help make change happen in Indiana. I'm a wife, a mother, and a warrior. I'm also a disabled Marine Corps veteran. I spent 8 years in the Marine Corps learning and mastering my leadership skills. I think we need more servant leaders in positions of power across Indiana and the nation, and I can do just that. I feel that we need to better support our public education system, make sure that veterans have accessible and accountable care, and better quality of life for all Hoosiers. Running for office has made me more adaptive. My advice to you is to find your authentic self and never apologize for it. My hope for you and for myself is that we can do good in the world, not great things, but good things.
Alrighty then, we will now move into the swearing in of our elected officers whose terms will begin on July 1, 2020. I will remind everyone that some of those who are elected are probably not on this call right now. There is a written oath component that's in our bylaws. That written oath component is the one that is required in order for a member to take their seat on the executive committee. And so now I will turn it over to the IYD Secretary, Ethan Hudson, to administer the oath of office.
Good deal. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Elected IYD officers, please raise your right hand and say, "I do," after the recitation of the oath of office. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, the governing rules of the Democratic Party and the Indiana Democratic Party, the charter, bylaws, and standing rules of the Young Democrats of America, and the bylaws of the Indiana Young Democrats, and will, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties of the office on which you are about to? Please say, "I do."
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
To each one of you as you in office. If we could hold just for one moment, we want to take a quick picture of everyone who's on this call. So on the count of 3 here, I'm just going to screenshot everybody. I'm going to smile, I guess. So 3, 2, 1. Good deal. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, everybody. So excited.
Thank you, Ethan, and congratulations to our elected officers. We will now conclude the business of our convention. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I would like to thank all of our delegates and guests for attending today's convention, as well as all of our speakers and candidates. There are so many issues facing our nation and our communities today, and there is so much that we have to do between now and November. But with consistent hard work from each and every one of us, we will elect Democrats up and down the ballot and start moving in the right direction again. It is now in order to hear a motion to adjourn.